We're going to move on to Chapter 12 in Lesson 12.1, Graphing on the Coordinate Plane. Just one comment, a much better job on the inequalities the last 2 days once you guys understood the directions and how to check your work. The scores and the grades were very good. Alright, so we're actually taking a step down in terms of difficulty. This is a very easy concept, which you'll see in just a minute. And this is going to be the framework of a lot of lessons you're going to be using the rest of middle school and into high school. So the whole idea is you will be graphing numbers on a plane, and your axis there, you'll see that it is in a cross shape, and this is how you remember the difference between the two. And so going across, you have the x-axis, and this is how you remember it. Notice how they meet going across. So the x is always going across, and then the difference, of course, is from y. And this is a good reminder built into y itself. You see how y has an up and down part to the letter, has that vertical part to the capital Y. So that's always how you remember the difference between the x and the y. All right, so when you get a number, which you're going to be seeing here, this is called a coordinate. So the first number is always the x, and then the second number is always the y. All right, so the first coordinate x is always going to tell you either to go to the right or to the left if it's negative, and then the second number y is going to tell you whether to go up or down if it's negative. All right, so the more you practice this, the easier it'll get. And this is how you should always remember it in terms of quadrants. All right, so quadrant is divided by 4, that prefix there, and this is how you remember it. This is 1, Roman numerals. This is 2, it goes counterclockwise. This is 3, and this is 4. All right, so we always start here, which is the positive side. So this is 1, and then this is 2, this is 3, and that is 4. All right, that'll make more sense in just a second when we're actually plotting points. But that's all you have to remember, is this is what we've been using over the last couple years when you've graphed things. We've always done things in the positive sense. But now that you guys are more advanced in your math, we will now have negative numbers going to the left and going up, and then negatives, and then positive and negatives. And that'll make more sense in just a second here. All right, so here we go. And this is GoMath. Explanation of everything I just said. Notice how the x is going across. The origin is always 0.00. So 2 zeros, that's always right in the middle. And then quadrant 2, 3, 4, like I just said. Alright, so let's look at some of the activities here. If both coordinates of a plane are negative, in which quadrant is the point located? Alright, so let's use our number line again. Alright, so this is what we just got done doing in our inequalities, and so you can see how they connect, right? So everything to the left of 0 were negatives. Alright, so we're going to start with that. Alright, so if our points are negative now, alright, that's our first number. Our first number is x, so we're going to go across first. Alright, and in this case, we're negative on this side. Alright, so it's asking us if both points are negative. Alright, so if our x going to the left is negative, and then going down is negative, those have to be in quadrant 3. Alright, it's asking us to describe all the coordinates of points in quadrant 1. I'm going to change the color, so what would all these points have to be? So our x number would have to be positive, and then our y number is going positive as well. Alright, so that would be positive, positive, or plus, plus. Now explain why negative 3, 5 represents a different location than 3, 5. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to erase all this, so we can look at that specifically. Alright, so this is how we do it. Let's plot our point first. Alright, so I'm going to blow that up. Alright, so what does this mean? It means that we go across first. So we always start in your origin. Alright, what does it tell us to do? It tells us to go 3 to the negative side. So I go 1, 2, 3. And now my y coordinate, which tells me to go up or down. Since that is a positive, I'm going to go up. And what does it tell me to do? It tells me to go up 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So this is technically my point that they're asking for first. I should always label my point as well. It's helpful to do that. So negative 3, 5. and it says, why does it represent a different location than 3, 5? All right, so what does that mean? Let's write that over here. So if it was positive 3, positive 5, I start first, so I start at my origin, and now I move over 3. 1, 2, 3. Now I go up 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So there's the difference between the two. This is positive 3, positive 5. And why does it represent a different location? And the difference is because of the negative side on the x coordinate. All right, so the negative x coordinate is the difference between the two. All right, let's go on. All right, identify the coordinates of each point. Name the quadrant where each point is located. All right, so I'll give you guys a moment to do this, and then you can check your work. So let's start with G. All right, so there's two parts to it, right? Let's name the coordinates first. So this is going to go here, and then the quadrant is going to go here. Remember, the quadrants are 1, 2, 3, and 4. All right, so start with G. Here you are. Give you guys a moment to do that. So remember your x and y, the difference. X is left or right, y is up or down. All right, so for G, I'm starting at the origin. I look over now, and I can go up to that number right there. So that's my first, that's my x. And now after I go over 4, what do? I go down negative. And notice I can check it over here. So that's negative 4. So there is my coordinate, 4, negative 4. And which quadrant is it in? 1, 2, 3, or 4? It's in quadrant 4. All right, do the same thing for E. I'm going to erase this line as you're working on that. All right, so there is E right there. Pick a different color. What do I do first? I start at my origin. What do? As I go to the left 2. So that means I go negative 2, and then I go up to 4. So E is negative 2, 4. And which quadrant is that? Again, this is 1. I go counterclockwise. That would be quadrant 2. Next, let's do F. All right, so find F. Where is it? There it is. So I started my origin again. What do? I go over to here. What point is that? It's in between 2 and 4. So that's point 3, positive 3. And then I go up 1, 2. So 3, 2. What quadrant is that? Both positives. Or hopefully you guys will get just used to this, knowing it without even looking. That's 1. And then lastly, point H. Give you a moment to do it on your own. Find it. There it is. I always start at 0, 0, my origin. I go across first. My x is first, so what do? It's on the negative side, so that's a negative 1. And then what do? I go down, and that's in between negative 2 and negative 4, so that's a negative 3. So negative 1, negative 3. 2 negatives, we get used to this all the time, is always quadrant 3. So there we go. All right. So example 2, graph and label each point on the coordinate plane. All right, so this is just a review of everything we've just gone over. So take a look at A. What does that mean? It means to go over negative 5 and then go up 2, and you'll see that's where it is. So over 5, up 2. B, 3, 1.5. So hopefully you guys recognize that decimal is a half. So what does this mean? I'm going to change the color. So that means go across 3. This goes up 1.5. 1, 2, 3. And there it is. You can see it in between 1 and 2. And then lastly, we see, I'm going to change the color, C, 0, negative 3. What does that mean? It means to go over 0. So that's right on the y-axis. And then you go down 3. And then that is point C. All right, so guided practice. Let's try some of these. All right, so they want you guys just to use the whole idea we're talking about here, the difference between the y-coordinate and the x-coordinate. X is always first, always go across, then up or down. So point A is 5 units. I'll just give you guys a moment to do it on your own, and we'll go over it. So find A. Our origin is 0, 0. So point A is 5 units blank of the origin. so that would be left, and 1 unit up from the origin. Its coordinates are, so now we put their 2 digits right across first, and so we already did that. That's -5, and then 1 up, and it's in quadrant. Remember the difference? Start here, 1, and go counterclockwise, so that's in quadrant 2. Do the same thing for point B. Find it. Going to use red. Alright, so how many units right of the origin? So we're starting here. So this is now to the right side, so that's going to be a positive number. How many? So notice how it goes over to 2. And how many units down? So 1, 2, 3. 3 down would be -3. It's like a thermometer here. We're below 0. Its coordinates are 2, -3. And it's in quadrant 1, 2, 3, and 4. Quadrant 4. Alright, graph and label each point on the coordinate plane above. Alright, so again, notice the difference, x and y. Give you a moment to do that first. Point C. Alright, so we're starting with -3.5. I start in the middle, right? Now I'm going to go -3.5 across. So there's -2, -3 would be over here, right? And that's kind of off the graph. Alright, so it's going to be there. And then we're going to go up 3, the second number, right? So we got 1, 2, and 3 would be at the very top. So that would be here. So that is point C. And point D at 5, 0. So what does that mean to do? I'll give you guys a moment. Oh, and I see here, we're supposed to be doing this on the previous graph where we had up to number 5. All right, so that's my fault. I can't go back to that. So we'll just use the invisible graph here. So that means go across 5. All right, so if I continue, that would be 3, that would be 5. All right, so that would be over 5, up 0. So that point right there is technically D. All right, and I apologize because it does go off the graph. Now we're going to use our graph to the right here for examples 5 through 7, and it should fit. All right, so let's describe the scale of the graph. What are we counting by? Each mark is counting by. See how it goes in between 0 and 1, so that's counting by halves. And every direction is doing the same. So let's plot our points now. All right, so plot point A. So I'm going to do a little bit bigger for you. This is point A, -1/2, comma 2. So again, x and y. So negative number means I'm going from the origin to the left. So I'm going over a half. So that's here. And then now I'm going up 2, all the way up to number 2. And that is there. I'm going to label that A. Erase this so you don't get confused. Okay, next, plot point B. Give you a moment to do that. All right, so positive number, what do we have? 2.5, so I'm going across 2.5, that's there. And now what do I do? -2, it goes below, think thermometer, negative, so there is -2. That is my point. Vocabulary, describe how the ordered pair represents a point on the coordinate plane. Use the terms x-coordinate, y-coordinate, and origin. All right, so you don't have to write a paragraph here, especially in purposes of time. So just remember across is x, up and down is y. And you start at the origin. give the coordinates of 1 point in each of the 4 coordinates, 1 point in the x-axis, 1 point on the y-axis. All right, so this is actually good just for you guys to think about. So just give you a moment to do that. I'm drawing my axis one more time. I'm going to label my origin 0, 0 right here. My coordinates. And now this can be anything you want. Quadrant. So anything for 1, it is going to be positive, positive. So just make sure you have 2 positive numbers here. That could be anything. All right, so quadrant 2, what does that mean? Changing the color, it means you're going to go negative first, and then you go up. All right, so whatever number you have, it's going to be negative first, and then the second number is going to be positive. All right, so that's all you have to do there. And then our third coordinate is going to be negative across, negative down, and so your 2 points are going to be negative, negative. And then finally, quadrant 4, what does that mean? It means it's over here. So that means we're going to have a positive first number and then a negative second number, whatever that would be. All right, so now you guys are going to practice. All right, you're going to use the graph here. All right, so write the ordered pairs that are represented. All right, so use the theater and where Sam is, and so they want you to make ordered pairs, and then you're going to answer the questions down below. All right, so pay attention to the directions of the grid where you're going, and on 14 and 15, you're going to use the coordinates to find points T, U, and V. Remember, the coordinates are here. And then we have word problems applying it. Here, what they want you guys to do is to connect and find a missing vertex. So after you connect the dots, and we're looking for a rectangle, what would that last point be? All right, so I don't want to do that for you. I want you to be able to think it through. All right, so just in summary, again, this is what we're doing here. And then more practice here, one more page. All right, this is a little bit more practical based off of what we're doing. All right, so I want you guys to identify the numbers. All right, C, D, E, and F, the letters rather. Again, finding those coordinates, X and Y. And then lastly, down below, you're going to graph the different points, P, Q, R, S, and T. All right, so again, quick review. We have our coordinate plane. It has 2 axes, plural. We have our X going across. We have our Y going up and down. And then we have our coordinates based off of our origin, which is 0, 0. And then we have the 4 different quadrants. We have quadrant 1, quadrant 2, quadrant 3, and quadrant 4, depending on what your points are. And it's always determined by the number that goes across, which is also known as our x coordinate, and then the number that goes up and down, which is our y coordinate. All right, so give it a go. If you have any questions, please let me know. And always go back to the video, pause it to the different parts. And a little bit, I think, simpler concept for you than inequalities, so we should see a lot of good scores.